Hi everyone, this is Jared, AC7WH, Backyard Ham Radio. This time I'm going to show you my plans for using my transceiver going forward. I figure rather than using a power supply that does not have a third prong for grounding or even a wider blade or flange, whatever you want to call it, for the plug to go into the outlet in the wall for grounding purposes and so forth, check out my old video from the previous QTH where I do feature that power supply by MFJ. It did serve me well, by the way, and it still works, but I decided it was time to go another route, and especially since that old power supply had a very loud fan that I realized was picking up even on my audio when I did some monitor tests. I thought, you know what, it's time to go full portable and independent of the power grid and run my transceiver and my tuner off of a battery. And this is a 100 amp hour 12 volt battery by WattCycle. So far I'm very pleased. I would highly recommend it. It even comes with 2 sets of the terminal bolts, so you can get the longer ones or the shorter ones, as I am using here, depending on what you have hooked up to the battery terminals. And it comes with these little caps that go on the positive and negative, so that's pretty cool. And anyhow, I am going to go ahead and try utilizing this and see what happens. But before I do, I would like to feature a couple other things. So this is about the battery, and then especially the transceiver, the IC7300, and what sort of readings I'm going to get with it. And then the charger that I use. Now some of you may almost laugh when you see this, but I use a NOCO GENIUS 5 amp charger that I've had for several years or more. I got that when I needed to be maintaining and charging a battery that was not maintaining a charge in a Subaru Forester, a 2016 Forester, and it turns out it was a known issue by the manufacturer, from what I understand, where the batteries were draining quickly and so forth. So there were a few times when I needed to jump start it basically to get it to start, and I didn't want to not be able to get to work on time or something like that, so I purchased this and it served me well. But it actually has a setting specifically for lithium batteries, and as we'll see in the instruction manual, this lithium battery setting also includes, specifically mentioned in the manual, lithium iron phosphate or LiFePO4 batteries such as this one. Alright, so it takes a while to charge, but that's okay. I would rather use what I have, which is kind of fun to do, to use the equipment you already have, as well as maintain the life of the battery and cooler temperatures by not quick charging it. Okay, now for the lithium iron phosphate battery, let's see what the manual shows the voltage is. Now it comes at a 50% charge when it is shipped, and if you look here at a 50% charge level, that would be right about in here. Notice it would be not much less than 12.8 volts. I would estimate on this scale that it would be maybe 12.5, 12.6, something like that. And when I measured it with my dad's multimeter, an analog multimeter, it came up as a hair over 12.5 volts when it was shipped to me. Okay, so looking here at the discharge curve, when it is fully charged there, let's see if we can get this to focus for a moment. There we go. When it's fully charged, it would be at somewhere around 13.7 or 13.8 volts, I would estimate. And then it's still no lower than about 12 volts over here until right as it approaches 100% discharge. So that is pretty cool. Keep that in mind. At the lowest voltage here until it's almost 100% discharged, it's about 12 volts or so. Okay, now I wanted to show you something else. In my Icom IC7300 manual, it shows that the radio will run off of 13.8 volts DC plus or minus 15%. So what is 15% of 13.8? Approximately 2.1 volts. So it'll work all the way up to 15.9 volts and all the way down to 11.7 volts. So 11.7 to 15.9. So guess what? I would be able to utilize this battery even if it is at a full state of charge or a nearly 100% discharge, and I would still be in that range. Now, as far as the charger that I use, the NOCO GENIUS5, if we look at charging times here, when the battery is a 100 amp hour battery, as mine is, it would take 15 hours to charge because it's only 5 amps. And that is a pretty close number to what I experienced when I had to charge this when I first received it a few days ago. But normally I'm not going to be discharging it that much, especially with 100 amp hours. If I'm transmitting a little while and then listening most of the time, and then transmitting a little while and listening most of the time. And the radio, by the way, draws 21 amps at its peak. Let's focus that again for a moment. There we go, 21 amps. And when it is receive in standby, just 0.9 amps, that battery with 100 amp hours is going to last quite some time. All right, I could go over these items in more detail, but I'm actually going to look at something else here. Oh, one other thing real quick. I did want to just point out in the manual for the NOCO Genius that for the lithium here, it says including lithium iron phosphate, and it shows how it puts out 14.6 volts at 5 amps, and it'll work with up to 120 amp hour battery, and this is 100 amp hour. So no problems there. Yeah, you have to be patient with it, but I feel like it's worth it. You don't have to buy new equipment, at least for now, and it's going to prolong the life of the battery, in my opinion. And it's a very smart charger. That's why it's called a Genius. Okay, so let's see what sort of readings I'm getting on the meter with this. Okay, I'm going to go to the menu. I'm going to go up to the meter. All right, so if you look at the voltage display here, let's go back to that. There we go. You'll see it is certainly within the range. You'll notice a little red bar there. There's so much light coming off of that screen that it looks more of a yellow-orange, but with my own eyes it looks like a nice medium red color. So that is certainly above the minimum there, and it's below the maximum. Now, when I had this on 13.8 volts from my MFJ power supply, I would say it was a few bars lower than that on the bar graph. So you'll see those little blue bars, vertical bars, and gray where it's empty on the right side. So I would say it was a few less than that. So I would say this may be something like 13.9 or almost 14 volts. It's hard to say for sure. But in any case, plenty of power. And let's go ahead and go back here. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my antenna tuner, also hooked up to the battery. All right. Now I'm not noticing any signals going on right now at 14,250, but let's make sure this is at a low power. Okay, good, 15%. And let's go ahead and see what happens when I try tuning really quick. If you saw my previous video, you'll see how I greased up the antenna tuner here. So let's check this out really quick. I'm going to just make sure the frequency isn't in use, even though I don't think anybody's using this because it's late at night right now. It's after 9 p.m. local time. But let's just check it out real quick, see what we've got. Is the frequency in use? Is the frequency in use? This is Alpha Charlie 7 Whiskey Hotel. Is the frequency in use? Over. Notice it's a high SWR and it limited the power peak in that particular instant to 6 watts, and it's because the SWR is pretty high, and then also this was single sideband. I have my compression off. I'm actually going to turn my compression on here real quick. There we go. Is the frequency in use? Is the frequency in use? This is Alpha Charlie 7 Whiskey Hotel. Is the frequency in use? Over. Okay, power did go up some there, so the compression I think had more to do with it than anything. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and tune. This is Alpha Charlie 7 Whiskey Hotel, tuning. A lot of hams, to my understanding, are not announcing themselves with every transmission, but last I checked, that is a requirement by the FCC. Okay, I've got that in RTTY mode, still 15 watts, and now let's get this tuned up. There we go. 20 meter band on a simple 8-foot whip with the 3 little counterpoise radials. Okay, so now that we're tuned up, I'm going to go ahead and do some testing. Let's go back to single sideband. And let's go ahead and turn this up to 100 watts. I'm going to also go back to the meter to see what sort of voltage drop it might display. Now some of this I haven't really played with much on the air because it wasn't really necessary, but let's see what I find out. I'm also going to check out my power down here in the display for the power meter for the power peak on the tuner. Here we go. This is Alpha Charlie 7 Whiskey Hotel, Alpha Charlie 7 Whiskey Hotel, Alpha Charlie 7 Whiskey Hotel, testing. So that was nice. It was peaking up to even 111 watts, and the battery is obviously able to supply that just fine. Let's see what it looks like down here. Temperature is running nice and cool. Voltage is still very nice. Let's see what it looks like here when I draw that full power. Alpha Charlie 7 Whiskey Hotel, Alpha Charlie 7 Whiskey Hotel, Alpha Charlie 7 Whiskey Hotel, tuning, testing, 1, 2, 3, Alpha Charlie 7 Whiskey Hotel, Alpha Charlie 7 Whiskey Hotel, tuning and testing. All right, I would say it's holding that pretty nicely. Well, guess what that means? It's time to get on the air. All right, this is AC7WH Backyard Ham Radio saying 73 for now, and see you next time.